So, imagine this. A country's economy has completely, totally collapsed. And the new government solution? It's basically to detonate a controlled economic explosion to clear the slate and start over. That is the incredible high-stakes experiment unfolding in Bolivia right now. It's a story of total crisis and an absolutely radical plan to rewrite the future.
And that really brings us to the central question here, doesn't it? When everything has failed, what do you do next? How do you fix something that's completely broken? Well, the answer being tested in Bolivia is a massive gamble, and it has lessons for all of us.
All right, so here's how we're going to break this all down. First, we're going to look at just how deep this crisis really is. Then, we'll dig into the roots of this economic disaster, how they got there. After that, we'll dissect their radical shock plan, the one designed to fix it. Then we'll explore Bolivia's secret weapon for a comeback. And finally, we'll weigh the insane risks of this high-stakes gamble.
Okay, let's start with the grim reality on the ground. And to be really clear, this isn't just a downturn or a little recession. This is a full-blown 5-alarm fire. It's a national emergency, and it's all happening in real time.
The official inflation rate, it's hit 22%, and it is still climbing. So what does that actually feel like for people? Well, picture your wallet has a hole in it. Every single day, the value of your money is just draining away. What you could afford yesterday, you literally can't afford today. At the same time, the government's credit card is totally maxed out. Public debt has just skyrocketed to 92% of everything the country produces in a year. I mean, to put that into perspective, just 15 years ago, that number was a pretty manageable 40%. The whole situation has just spiraled completely out of control. And this is the real shocker. This is the country's emergency savings account, the international dollar reserves that every nation keeps for a rainy day. It's empty. Zero. Nothing. Without these reserves, Bolivia can't pay for essential imports like fuel or medicine, and its own currency just goes into a total freefall.
So the crucial thing to remember is these aren't just abstract numbers on a screen. This is daily life. The actual dollar on the street costs double the government's made-up price. People are waiting in line for days, just to get gasoline. Basic things are just vanishing from supermarket shelves. And investors? Well, they've seen the writing on the wall and pulled over $2 billion out of the country.
So the picture is incredibly bleak, and it just begs the question, how on earth did a nation with so much potential end up in this big of a mess? Well, the roots of this crisis, they run deep.
The analysis really points to one main culprit. For 2 straight decades, Bolivia followed the exact same economic playbook. The state controlled everything. From the biggest industries to the smallest regulations, the government was at the center of it all.
And this right here, this chart, it illustrates the problem perfectly. For years, natural gas was Bolivia's golden goose, right? It was their main source of income. But under state control, production has collapsed by more than half. The state-run company got so inefficient that it basically killed its own cash cow.
And then there's the bureaucracy. This is just unbelievable. In Bolivia, the average company spends over 1,000 hours a year just on tax paperwork. 1,000 hours! That makes it the second worst country in the entire world for this, just behind Brazil. Just imagine all that time and money, which could be creating jobs, just being swallowed whole by paperwork.
So faced with this complete and utter disaster, what's the response? It's a plan they're actually calling shock therapy. And honestly, shock is the perfect word for it. The core idea is a complete 180-degree turn away from the last 2 decades of policy.
Now, to understand their strategy, we've got to quickly talk about a key concept, the fiscal deficit. It's basically the financial hole a government digs for itself when its spending is way, way higher than the money it brings in from taxes and other income.
And Bolivia's hole? Well, it was more like a canyon. The deficit hit an absurd 12% of the entire economy. A number that high isn't just a warning sign, it's a direct path to national bankruptcy. It means the government either has to print money like crazy, causing hyperinflation, or just default on its debts. It's completely, totally unsustainable.
So what are they doing about it? Like right now? The initial attack is on 3 fronts. First, a brutal 30% cut in government spending. Ouch. Second, they're completely getting rid of 4 different taxes. And the goal of all of this? Close that 12% deficit, and do it fast. Now hang on a second. Cutting taxes when you're broke? That sounds kind of crazy, right? But here's the twist. These 4 specific taxes they got rid of, they were so complicated and frustrating that they barely brought in any money, less than 1% of total revenue. But they were responsible for scaring away over $2 billion in investment. So the bet is simple. It's better to give up a few pennies to maybe unlock a potential fortune.
So the plan is bold, yeah? And the risks are huge. But does Bolivia have a hidden ace up its sleeve? Let's take a look at the country's surprising potential for a real comeback.
This might just be their biggest secret weapon, raw political power. Look next door at Argentina. President Javier Milei is trying to push through similar free market reforms, but he's blocked at every single turn by Congress. But in Bolivia, the new leader, Paz Pereira, has something Milei doesn't, a majority in both houses of the legislature. This is so crucial. It means he actually has the political capital to push through these painful but maybe necessary changes. He has what political scientists call governability.
And of course, there's what's literally buried under the ground. Bolivia isn't just a country, it's a treasure chest. We're talking about the world's largest reserves of lithium, not to mention massive deposits of natural gas, zinc, and tin. And in today's world, lithium is king. The global economy is absolutely desperate for it for batteries, to power everything from electric cars to our smartphones. If Bolivia can finally create a stable and attractive place for investment, it could unlock a cycle of prosperity the country has only dreamed of for decades.
And so, that brings us to the final chapter, at least for now. Bolivia is at a massive crossroads. The path it's chosen is radical, and honestly, the outcome is anything but certain.
Which leaves us with the ultimate question. Will this economic shock therapy actually work and revive the nation? Or will the country just sink for good? The entire world is watching, because the next chapter of Bolivia's story, well, it's being written right now.